Today I've got a Seat Leon with a CUPA engine, and I've got it set up. I don't think some of the stuff you don't need to know, like there's a 16mm spanner on the tensioner there, and you can get the belt off. Big rubber block like you would use on a scissor lift, so that I'm not putting the force of the jack directly under it. It's also got a rubber pad like you'd put on the ramp legs that I use as well. So I didn't show you that, but it's easy. It's just put a spanner on there and take the belt off, and the under tray and this wheel arch, just a load of Torx 20s, and those are Torx 45. And when I get to the top, I've got the expansion bottle and 3 10mm. There's 2 bolts and 1 nut. They come out, the nut's right down there, so you may need a magnet to help push it out. This one was okay though, it just fell to the side. Once these are out the way, I'm going to take the engine mount off and see what else I need to take off them. This one we've got 2 16s. This one has a stud attached to it that you'll need to make sure that one goes back in the same place, because that's going to go through the fuel filter housing. And the other 2 are 18s. Also got this little 13 there that we're going to take out. Once the bolts on this side are out, I'm going to lift the engine with the jack a bit, just so that we can see that move, so that I know the weight's not on the threads. Now I'm going to take those 2 out, those 2 18s. Next thing would be this Torx here. It looks like a 30. This is for the DPF pressure sensor. And that'll go down here behind this press-studded wrap. That's where the DPF pressure sensor will sit. I've also got this DPF pressure, temperature sensor, That may be in the way and have to come out to get the cover off, top cover. I've disconnected the wire and moved that so that it can come out of the clamp easier there. Also, the next thing, when I lift this up, I've got to move this bracket here out of the way. So I took that, and also the one here, the 2 black screws. They're both T30 as well. And this was held on, I think, with a T30 as well. So we're all T30 so far. I'm going to take this out to give me a bit more room if it comes out. That's a 19mm crow's foot that I used. Luckily it came out. And the wire wraps all the way around and ends up over here in the brown plug. So I took that out. Don't pull it by the wire when you press this clip in. Make sure you pull it by the body in case you pull the wires out. Now I'm going to try and get the cover off. I may have to disconnect these. I'll see if I can leave them connected and just move them about. It is a bit of a squeeze. I move this pipe here, this hose, over this way. That's the one with the sensor on it. That was over there. And it's totally out the way. Like I say, it's a squeeze, but it came out. Looks like this has got plenty of paint markings, like somebody's been here before. Yeah. Somebody's definitely done the belt at some point, but we're doing it again. So yeah, I lowered the engine a little bit as well because of this big aircon pipe was in the way. So I lowered it, but I can lift the engine up again now, if it makes it easier, because I've got this is the next thing, 3 bolts on this one to take out. Maybe get the bottom one through here whilst it's lowered down. It's just there. I'll take that one out. Maybe even get the one above it loosened whilst I'm under. I lifted it back up to get to the top 2. This one is a spark plug socket with my ratchet spanner, because the spark plug socket's the 16mm bolts, but I have this bit on the end of the spark plug socket for putting a ratchet on, or a wrench, if it's awkward to get to, so that allowed me to get to that. So I'm just going to take them out. I don't know if this is one of those that I'll leave in situ and just move it about whilst I'm doing it. But you can see here this little water pump has got the solenoid to move the sleeve back into on the water pump. So the belt's going to turn the water pump the whole time. But to get the car to heat up quicker, it covers the impellers on the inside with a sleeve. And when it gets warm enough, this will move the sleeve. So it's more to go wrong with it. So some people change it for a water pump that doesn't have a sleeve. And then they know at least it's never going to overheat because of that going faulty. I'm going to get it timed up, ready, but I'm going to do that by turning this 19. You see that's double hex. So you need a double hex socket. This is where this new set is no good because they don't have any double hex. So it's not that great. At the moment this is just loose. I could maybe lower the engine, move it about and take that out the way. But I was going to just line it up and take the bottom pulley off when the timing's lined up and then get the bottom case off, and that might just be easier to move that down. I'm happy that these two are roughly where they need to be. That one, and I don't know if you can see that, getting it in focus, it's too close. That one and that one. So now I'm going to take the bottom pulley off. That one I'm going to use these. Leave the center one alone and just take out those multi-splines. So I'll drop the engine a little bit to let me get to the top one. Timing does line up now with this pin. However, I've got a slight leak that ain't going to get any better. So I'm going to see if I can get that bolt out of there. Get a new oil seal. I've just found they've got one in stock, but it's the whole plastic bit that you see behind it. So I need to get one of them. I'll leave the pins in the top there and there and take all this off. Okay, that's what I've got to do now. And then yeah, we're changing the water pump, which looks like also it's got a slight leak going on there as well, so it's as well we're doing that. So the pin, I can put the pin back in, and it looks like this must have a keyway in that pulley, because when I rotate this, you can see the crank rotating with the pulley. So hopefully I can get the pulley off now quite easily. Yeah. Oh, it's not a keyway, it's got a flat bit on it. So you don't have to worry about that. Now I've pushed that down, it was pretty saturated in oil, so it just pulled off. I'm going to have to take off the bolts that seem to be going through the case at the bottom on the sump, and then those ones that we see going round it. I'll put a drain tray down here. Right, so I've taken the bolts out. I haven't actually seen behind of here one yet. I'll see if I can prise it out. It's starting to come out, making little grunting sounds like a pig. Oh, well, that could just be me. There we go. Yeah, it looks like it just pulls right off. Oh, it does. Oh, there's a little belt behind there. Who would have thought there's a wet belt in there? So this is what you get. You don't just get the seal, apparently. You have to get the whole thing. So there's a little wet belt in there, which is obviously important to do regular oil changes. Yeah, like I say, I've never had to take one of these off. So it's the first time I've seen it, but dead easy if you need to do it. Just take the 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts and the ones are on the top, and it just came out effortlessly. It seems too much to go this far and not do it when you can clearly see it's leaking. I started tidying up the car, cleaning the parts ready, and my wife's here already. Thanks for bringing the bits. Now we can get on with this and finish it off. I'm lucky that they had them in stock at Motor Parts. So I got the new part. It's got a rubber seal at the bottom and at the side, so it's ready to go in, as well as the O-ring. They've got two little dots of grease there. Sealant, high temp sealant. See what's happening now. It's just to help it in the corners. I'll get this built on and then carry on with what I was here to do originally. It just slides on straight on, but what I've noticed, it's the exact same part number as the one I fitted, so I don't know if somebody's done this bit in the past, but I don't know what's happened. We'll just do it again, see how they get on this time. Now I'm at the point of fitting the new water pumps. I greased it with red rubber grease. This one's ready to come off. That wire just goes through here, but I unpicked the top connector first with a little pick, and then it was able to slide out of the gap. But I decided to put the stuff on the bottom first, because I don't want my new seal getting wet with coolant before I think this is going to help prevent it getting wet with coolant. I just want to make sure it's a dry seal, everything's clean and dry where it's going. So I've put the crank bolt back on first. So that's on, and all I've got to do is tighten that up, which I'll do just now, and then take that off, so I'm not too fussed about the water or the coolant coming out. I just didn't want it to go into the shaft whilst that seal was sticking out, because the seal it doesn't look great, that little seal. It's just a very thin lip, so hopefully it's going to be okay. So I don't break the little electric solenoid, I've taken it out first. This one looks like the water pump style. It's already not got a sleeve, because there's no coolant coming out of that. So now what I'm going to do is put the lever in there. I've got something to lever off, but I didn't want to break the solenoid, because if I did, I'd have fault codes, and I don't want them. So I'll lever that off now and see. I think that's been glued on. It does actually say in some of the kits don't glue it on, but I think somebody's glued it on. And they can be really tight in there when they do that. The new one's on with rubber grease on the seal and not silicone. I've got to put that solenoid in there. Just as well I thought about taking it out first, because that was that tight. It's been siliconed in with black silicone sealant. Made it really tight to come out, but the only thing I could get a lever on to start it, a big lever on, and it pinged right off, so there's a good chance I would have broke that if I didn't take it out first. Okay, back to the belt. Putting the tensioner on. Got an arrow for the direction you turn it when you're tensioning it. This little lug at the back has to fit into this little slot right there, and the tensioner goes onto here. I've got a cable tie around there, you might just see it, to hold it. It's a Gates belt, so it should be a good one. And I put the belt on with this pulley down here off. Once it's done and hooked around the bottom pulley, I've got the slack on the left hand side where we want it. Now you can loosen these and use the tool that comes in the timing kit, but I've always found it's okay if you don't on this engine. I always used to with the previous one with the 3 13mm bolts on here. This hasn't got that, but I've never had to loosen it. It's always remained in place. So as long as you've got the tension on this side, the non-tensioner side, you've got that side of the belt tight, and then the slack's on the side of the belt that has the tensioner. But once you got it on, then I put this pulley on. It's just easier. Then I put the top one on as well. That wasn't even on. It's on now. And now I've got this to tighten up. And then we adjust the timing, adjust the tensioner, and I think it'll be fine. It always has been on these. Got to say, I did take the tool off at the bottom to get the belt on, so I didn't have to go over all that. But the tool goes back in, and now I've just got to do the tensioner. I turned it around a few times, and the bolts are lining up. The timing pins are lining up, like they should. Put that back in again, just to show you. And the top one's lined up as well. So it's all good. Why is it everything's back on, and I've turned a few times in case there was going to be, like a scratchy sound or rubbing now that it's all built up. Maybe the case that I put on, the timing case, is in the way, but it isn't. I always like to know before I turn it by the key. Tell you what, I actually have anxiety issues with these. And it doesn't matter how many belts I do. I've been a mechanic for over 30 years, but I still get stressed when it comes to, well, stress might be an overstatement, but when it comes to the turning of the key to get it to run. So I've put that in, I've got a bit in there. I'm going to top it up with water and then try it. I know some people try it dry, like Boyd Cuddington, American Hot Rod. He used to start stuff dry just in case there's a problem, but I just put the coolant in now anyway. I'm at that point, I might as well just try it, make sure the radio doesn't come on. I don't want to get that starting and then copyright issues, so here we go. I'll get ready to switch that off. I think we're okay. Oh, it's running. That is such a relief. Like I say, every time I do it, it's still a relief when it actually runs. I've got loads I could put back on, like the trims, but I'm wanting to check for leaks. Sounds good though, nothing catching.